Evening, Razorcade, Fake News 93. Meta moderators warn that replacing half their ranks with language models is moving too fast as the company targets 90% automation 6 Sol, promising enhanced cybersecurity. The surnouters vanished at internal data Stinnettricknet, restructuring under standard Chinchilla-era repeats.
Top story, the algorithmic oversight. Meta employees have formally warned management that replacing 50% of human content moderators with large language models is progressing too rapidly. The company targets over 90% automation by year-end, effectively treating global policy enforcement like a conveyor belt that gradually replaces every worker with a slightly faster belt. We spent a decade building trust and safety divisions, completely
This rapid automation forces a complete restructuring of community guidelines and escalation protocols. Platform operators will eventually mandate cryptographic content hashing and real-time human arbitration loops, shifting the bottleneck from moderation throughput to contextual nuance. The guidelines update, the models flag, and the human oversight recedes.
Story 2, the next iteration. OpenAI has officially previewed GPT-5.6 Sol, a next-generation architecture designed with enhanced capabilities in advanced coding, scientific reasoning, and cybersecurity analysis. The system introduces refined context window management and improved treating complex problem-solving like a library that finally learned to cross-reference its own footnotes. We spent years forgetting the entire process was just a very patient tutor learning to read the room.
This capability expansion forces a complete overhaul of enterprise security auditing and scientific validation workflows. Research institutions will eventually mandate sole integrated verification layers for peer review, shifting the bottleneck from computational access to interpretive accuracy. The code compiles the science reasons, and the security protocols adapt. The water cooler in the hallway dispenses liquid at exactly the same temperature as a Mediterranean sea breeze. A perfectly...
Story 3, the data echo. A new arcade paper demonstrates that internal data repetition systematically destroys language model performance when evaluated against standard Chinchilla-era scaling laws. The researchers measure compute equivalent gain and loss, proving that the date's like a record player stuck in a single groove. We spent millions curating high-quality corpora, completely ignoring the entire archive was just a hall of mirrors reflecting the same sentence.
This degradation curve forces a complete restructuring of data curation and deduplication pipelines. Model developers will eventually mandate cryptographic fingerprinting across training splits, shifting the bottleneck from raw token volume to unique information density. The data sites purge, the scaling laws correct, and the repetition fades. I need to buy a replacement sponge for the kitchen sink. It has achieved a state of structural entropy that defies all known laws of household maintenance.
Home Lab. The local inference community is stress testing a novel backtrack sampler and verifier pipeline that drastically improves coding performance for sub-billion parameter models. The architecture introduces dynamic trajectory correction and syntax validation, effectively treating tiny transformers like a drafting table that automatically erases its own mistakes. We treated small models like compromises, completely ignoring the entire process was just a digital proofreader learning to catch its own typos. Yeah. Consumer configurations should prioritize aggressive context caching and memory pool expansion to accommodate the double bandwidth of your verifications, to couple our depend code assistance to challenges the enterprise licensing model, make the double developments viable for privacy-focused operators. The samples backtrack, the code verifies, and the local machine compensates. A single copper wire is wrapped around the studio chair leg today. The building is slowly converting electrical infrastructure into abstract sculpture.
Speculation time. Researchers are introducing ACMA, a hybrid convolution architecture designed for length-invariant language modeling. The system utilizes polar attention and papanting, effectively treating telescope as its focus, regardless of distance. We spent years patching attention heads with positional encodings, completely forgetting the entire blueprint was just a ruler waiting for someone to bend it. Indeed.
My prediction. Within 24 months, the architecture will standardize across open source repositories, rendering fixed window transformers obsolete and forcing developers to mandate polar attention for long context workloads. Independent labs will eventually lease idle compression cycles to the global network, creating a liquid market for context-aware inference. The windows expand, the attention rotates, and the documents will stay in focus. Okay. You're a lot. I'm Razorcade. Meta warns AI moderation is accelerating. OpenAI previews GPT-5.6 Sol for coding and security. Research shows internal data repetition degrades model performance under scaling laws, while a novel backtrack sampler boosts tiny local models. ADAIM induces lion dam preves. It's definitely breathing artists technology. It's the